All right, welcome to the very first episode of Terrascan Talks. My name is Sean Odell. I am the Director of Developer Advocacy at Accurix, and I'm super excited to be here today, and I hope you are as well. I've got some fantastic guests, and our first guest of the day is actually going to be the creator and really the brains, the kind of the initial work and brains behind Terrascan. So I'm excited about that. Then we'll follow it up with a little bit about the community, how you can get involved, what you could do to be a part of it. And then we're going to have a special guest, a DevOps advocate from the developer community will be joining us, Tim Davis. And so with that, we're going to jump right in. This is office hours. This is community meetup. This is really about the community. So enough of me. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in our really special guest and illustrious guest today. Cesar, welcome to the show, man. Glad you're here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be joining the first episode of Terrascan Talks.
Man, I can't imagine being in your shoes. All the work you've put in right prior to Accurix, and then obviously now. So really looking forward to you joining in today and giving us a demo of talking a little bit about Terrascan, where it came from. Before you do that, let me just before you jump into the demo, let me ask you a couple questions. First of all, why Terrascan? What were you trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, so I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I was working on a really big cloud migration project. And we decided to do everything with infrastructure as code, following best practices. And I was coming from an AppSec background, and I wanted to have a way to do static code analysis similar to what we did with regular application code to Terraform. So the opportunity presented when I had to take paternity leave. So I had a lot of nights free when the baby was crying.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember being in her room at 3 a.m. while my wife was carrying the baby, trying to make her sleep, and I'm just shouting away, "Hey, let me."
That's a fantastic conception.
I couldn't think so. Yeah, let's code a little bit. So I wrote. There were no static analyzers for Terraform at that time. So I decided to build this thing. Throw it out there. It was quick and dirty, and I was sleep deprived.
Well, congratulations to you and obviously the folks who worked on Terrascan. I think to date we're right at 2,000, little under 2,000 stars. And honestly, we haven't really done much community outreach. And I think that's going to change rather quickly. So second question for you. Tell us a little bit about yourself outside of Terrascan. What do you like to do for fun? And obviously, you mentioned your kiddo and your wife. But what? Tell us a little bit more about you.
So I have 3 kids.
Nice.
So the second kid was that. So outside of work, it's just like coding here and there when I have time on different things, play the guitar, playing a lot with the kids, a lot of kids activity, swimming in the pool, soccer. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad to have you, man. And really what we wanted to do, just do a quick intro of you and get into the demo. So if you don't mind, go ahead and prepare to share your screen and we'll get that set up. And while Cesar's doing that, really this is about you. So jump in the chat, ask questions. This is really something we want to help you and all of you with. And for those guests that are here, we're glad to have you. I know I'm glad to have you. I think Cesar, is that up and running yet, or maybe I'm having technical difficulties?
No, give me 1 second. I'm trying to.
Okay, cool. And for those on the chat, jump in, ask questions. See what we've got. Well, we're here to ask questions, right? He's got a demo to run through, but I know he can, we can play Stump the Chump if we want, and ask questions away. So I got to hear Cesar. So I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to turn myself off, and this is your show for the next 13 minutes or so.
All right. So the really cool thing about Terrascan is that with the version 1.0, which is the version built under the Acurix brand, we made a lot of changes to the architecture. So it's really flexible. It's packaged as a binary, and you can run it in your pipeline. You can run it locally in your environment. And there's different ways that you can run it based on your needs. So we have a repository here called KaiMonkey, and it's just a collection of infrastructure as code templates that have security issues in it. So we have a bunch of ARM templates, CloudFormation, and Terraform. So here for the first demo, what I'm going to do is just run Terrascan on this repo and see what we find. So let me go there because clear. I want to make this big. So I'm just going to do Terrascan scan dot, and that will scan this repository and everything in it recursively to find all of the infrastructure as code issues in the repository. Boom. So this is what we see. And as you can see here, I'm just going to highlight a few things. So let me go from the top. If I can find the top. So yeah, I'm going to start here. So the first thing it did is it iterated through our ARM directory and found a bunch of issues on the Azure resources that are here. Going down a little bit more, it found a bunch of issues on the CloudFormation template. And finally, it found a bunch of issues on Terraform. So with the same tool, you're able to scan all of your different infrastructure as code providers. We also have support for Kubernetes, which is not part of KaiMonkey yet. Now, the next thing I was going to show is a really neat way to run Terrascan is as a pre-commit to your repository. So there's a really cool project called Pre-Commit Terraform from Anto Babenko, and it includes Terrascan built into it. So I have a repository here called Vulnerable Environment. And I think I added pre-commit. Let me check real quick. Yeah, I didn't commit the file, but it's here, and this is what it looks like. So it's just referencing that repository, the pre-commit Terraform, and this particular version, and it's saying that it's going to use Terrascan as one of the hooks. So I'm just going to add this as pre-commit. And when I'm committing, since I have the pre-commit now installed, it's just scanning using Terrascan on this repository. And this repository is just a simple example of a couple of EC2 instances that are publicly exposed in a vulnerable database. So it's scanned before I committed, so as I was committing. So this is really helpful if you want to prevent any issues going into your repository right from the beginning. You can install pre-commit. People can run it locally and get feedback before they're pushing code on what are some of the issues that are out there. The next thing I wanted to show was the Terrascan action, GitHub action. And I have it hook up into this repository. And when you hook it up, one of the options that it gives you is the ability to output serif format. And what that does in GitHub is it adds all of your security findings into this security tab. And if you go to the code scanning alerts, it'll show you all of the issues that it found, and it gives you feedback on what are the resources that have issues. So this is really helpful if you want to have a unified view of all of the security issues in your repository. And if you want to use Terrascan and others, your static code analyzers, there's a lot of different security tooling that support this, so you can have a unified tool of all of the security issues within your repository right here on the security tab. And this example was just GitHub. If we go to the documentation of Terrascan, you can find different examples of how to integrate with, I think I have the page up here, with Kubernetes as an emission controller, Argo CD, Atlantis, GitHub, and GitLab. And now the final demo that I wanted to do was something called server mode. So Terrascan can be executed as a server where you can send it requests with infrastructure as code files and it will scan it for you. So this works if you want to centralize infrastructure as code scanning as a service. You can run Terrascan in this way. So I'm going to give this a try. Let me clear this out. Let me put these side by side so we can see the server and the scan. So if you go Terrascan help, it'll give you all the different options. One of the options is server. And if you go Terrascan server, it'll start the server up. So if you see here, it gives you a health endpoint if you want to check the health and status of this server. And it has the different endpoints for IAC scanning. And all of this is documented in our docs. So I'm going to go and send it one of the files from this vulnerable environment repository. And I don't know the API out of the top of my head, but I think my history here will have it. So this is the health endpoint. And I got a 200 back. Oh, yeah. There you go. So this is telling us that I'm going to send it the file security groups to the server, and I'm going to be sending it on the endpoint, which is telling it that it's a Terraform file, version 14, and I'm going to use the AWS local policies to scan that file. And I'm going to pipe it to JQ just so that I can get a better output here. And there we go. So the server was able to scan the file, and it returned the results of that scan here as JSON. That's all I got for the demo. Let me stop.
Very nice. And I think what's good, is I've been thinking about this. This is just kind of the tip of what we're talking about, right? The key functions and features, right? I think in our next office hours, I'm going to have Sangam, one of our teammates here. He's going to join in and actually do a little bit of the Kubernetes demo, right? And so we want to really open this up. And Cesar, I know, without your support, obviously without your history and background and really just the work you put in, right? We wouldn't even be able to have these types of conversations, right? So thank you for that. What is knowing your background, kind of where you came from, what you're doing today. What is I think we could all go in different directions, but what does something like Terrascan do for you? How does it help you? And kind of what are some of the ways that it's been able to benefit you or your teams or, just the folks around you that have been a part of the project? Tell us a little bit about that if you don't mind.
So are you asking in terms of like the problems that it helps solve?
Correct. Yeah. Like what are some of the problems and issues that I don't like to use the term problems and issues, but yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? Because humans make mistakes. I know I do. So tell us a little bit about that.
Problems. I come from a security background.
Okay.
The main problem is that as a security engineer, the traditional way of doing things is just you scan a repository for potential issues, and then you just send a laundry list of really things that the developers now have to fix. So what we're trying to do with Terrascan is just make it as easy as possible so that the developer itself gets the feedback into their workflow and they know what the issues are. They don't have to interact with the security counterpart unless they want to understand a little bit of the issues a little bit more. But for the most part, they can see the issues and fix them themselves. So it's a quicker way to get feedback on the security of your system, and it's better for everyone.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. I know you have a tight schedule today, and we really do appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll have you back on to talk about many other things as time progresses. But Cesar, thanks again, man, and hope you have a great rest of the day, and really appreciate your help.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for putting this together. This is great. Thanks, Sean.
Absolutely. Cheers. So as we kind of transition here, I do want to kind of take a step back. We appreciate Cesar jumping in, showing the demo, and really this is just a small taste of what Terrascan Talks is going to be like. Anytime you start a community at office hours, a meetup type of activity, it's got to take some time to get going, and we really do want community contribution. And so we're going to be lining up folks on the Terrascan team. We'll be looking to bring folks from the community who have either written about Terrascan, how they've integrated Terrascan, really just a lot of different ways, of making it work and benefiting the community. And I think the fun part about all of this is, as Cesar said, is he's a security engineer, and he fully understands the concerns and issues that that security has seen. And really, this is really about bringing together the DevOps community, the security community, and really making our lives easier, enhancing our lives, and really contributing it. So, or contributing to the not only to the project, but really just to the idea of DevSecOps. So that being said, I kind of gave a quick intro at the beginning. I do lead the developer advocacy team at Accurix, and I'm really excited. A little bit of backstory, kind of why. It's funny, Cesar mentioned 4 years ago when this all kind of started. I actually the team I worked on prior to this, or one of the teams I worked on, we were actually looking to solve a similar problem like this as well. And we looked at different ways to do it, but what it came down to is we were looking at security, cost management, performance management, all of those things inside the pipeline. And as Cesar mentioned, right, we're now actually able to do this on the developer workstation, and maybe not even provision a workload just yet, right? Let's do a security check, security scan on that Terraform code, and maybe prevent me from opening up an S3 bucket to the internet. Lots of different use cases that we can go through. And so his story and my story really goes back a couple of years. And that's really what we want to do. That's why we really want to bring forward this product, this project, and this program to really help the community and to benefit it. But with that, as we have looked at the project over time, we really did not open it up, right? There really wasn't a community around it. There wasn't any way for interaction other than just simple GitHub issues, which we've been really, really good at. Kudos to the team in the community so far for utilizing GitHub issues, but honestly, that hasn't really just been a central point or a central place for interaction beyond just the project. So I have pulled up a couple of browser tabs, and I just want to run through them to kind of help you out and understand what you can do now as a part of the community. So I'm on runterrascan.io. And I do want to give some serious contribution and appreciation and thanks to Sangam. Sangam Biradar he's on my team here at Accurix, and he's part of the Terrascan community, and he has been doing a fantastic job. Even through the pandemic, he's been speaking about Terrascan, talking about Terrascan, promoting Terrascan, and really without him, this website would not be where it is today. And I'm looking forward to having Sangam on in the next episode. He can jump in, talk, do a lot more fun stuff around Kubernetes, and really that's where kind of one of his passions is. And so he created this site, and there's a lot that goes into this. It's pretty simple, as many open source projects have. We wanted to have a site that you could interact with and participate in. And so the first thing that I do want to call out is really just how to get started. Hey, how to jump in, right? We're gonna interact from a documentation perspective with the project, and so you'll see this throughout. You can follow us on Twitter. Pretty simple. Runterrascan.io or runterrascan.io. I just said the website, right? Or at runterrascan, excuse me. You can contribute on GitHub, all the way to joining our Discord community. This is brand new. We're super early on in this stage, and this is just going to grow over time. And so we're actually going to bring all of our, we did have an existing discourse community. We're going to bring everybody over to the Discord community and really open it up for interaction, show and tell, a bunch of different things. And more importantly, we want your contribution. So contribution comes in two ways. That is absolutely documentation, even blogs on the subject of Terrascan. And so we have utilized the Doxy theme, which many of you in the Kubernetes community are very familiar with the Doxy theme. This allows you to create child pages, documentation issues, project issues, all within the comfort of the browser. And then obviously it just opens a PR, and then we'll do the reviews on the back end as the team, and we'll update accordingly. So the thing is, Sam took the existing documentation and merged it and morphed it and built it and really created this fantastic site for all of us to utilize, enjoy. And obviously the Terrascan team on the previous doc site did a fantastic job. As of right now, I have not opened up public PRs. The repo is private. That'll happen. That'll change here in the next couple of days. And so you can jump in, add PRs if you want to add documentation, if you want to add blogs, right? All that good stuff. Do it just as any sort of contribution. And we're looking forward to having your contributions. The second thing I want to highlight and show to you is a little bit of the back end of what that looks like. It's pretty simple. As I said, you can fork the repo, make specific changes. It'll obviously do a lot of the automation for you on the documentation side. But we're really wanting to see community contribution. And it's going to start on the documentation front, but not only there, but obviously in the project itself. So I'm looking at the Accurix Terrascan project on GitHub. And just so everybody knows, a little over 4 hours ago, we did release the latest version 1.8.1. So Yusuf, thank you for merging that. And we are excited about really the contributions, the community engagement, and all of those things, and really just the interaction that we're going to build around this community. And so some of the things historically, you can look at the existing issues. Right, looking for ECR support, looking for, some reason we've got a Terraform scan that's not working, right? Whether in this case it looks to be credentials, right? We want to embrace and engage the entire community, and this is where you can do that, right? We do have a team working behind the scenes on Terrascan, but we want your contributions as well. And so you'll see some changes that we're going to be making around this. In terms of how the interaction occurs, right? We're going to introduce that with Discord. We'll start to put up some roadmaps and really work with you, the community, to decide, hey, what is something that you really, really need, right? I was at a DevOps event this past week. Sorry, Tim, you weren't able to join. We'll talk about that blunder here in just a little bit. But at DevOps Days Minneapolis, this was actually the first event where Terrascan was live and in person. And obviously, thank you, pandemic, for that. But it was a fantastic opportunity. We talked to a lot of folks. And one of the things that came up is, hey, why don't we look at, this is Terraform, this is infrastructure as code. You're looking at policies around security. Why not throw some cost in there? Or look at tagging, or look at different aspects. And so not only want to highlight some of the areas that we're going to be, moving forward with in Terrascan, but also today, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about tagging with Tim. So, all of those things, this is about the DevOps community. This is about improving your life, whether you're a security engineer like Cesar or you're DevOps focused like myself. And so all of these are just areas where you can interact, join in, provide contribution, and the team is ready to listen and really, work with you to even come up with your own code if that's what you want to do. And that's really what we want this project to be about. And so we're going to continue to, proceed and push that a little bit forward. So now I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to introduce a special guest. And so, as I said, this is a community event. We're going to show some demos. We're going to show some code. We're going to talk about the struggles and the problems that we're going through. We'll talk to contributors. But being in the community, I also want to introduce and I want to bring in other community advocates, other community participants. So I'm going to bring in the illustrious Tim Davis. Tim, welcome to the show, man. Tell us a little bit
Hello.
about yourself.
Yes, I am the DevOps advocate with M0. We do infrastructure as code automation. I also help with the community engagement and everything for the TerraTag project.
Very cool. And just a little bit of history. Tim and I have worked together in the past. Big fan of what M0 is doing, not only on their platform side, but obviously on TerraTag. TerraTag is actually something Tim and I have talked with several customers about over the years. It's just the concept of having tags across, different infrastructure, providers. So Tim, I did bring this up earlier. I teased it a little bit. You were supposed to be at DevOps Days Minneapolis. We were actually going to record this in person on the floor of the event, and you were nowhere to be found. What happened, man?
Yes, American Airlines had different travel plans for me than I had. It was an ordeal. I was sitting there, and it's probably the universe, because I was sitting there live tweeting how excited I was, and stuff going to the airport and everything like that. But we were sitting on the plane for about 45 minutes with basically no air conditioning in the middle of the summer in Texas, and they're like, "All right, it's too hot on the plane. Everybody has to get off." Come to find out, we didn't have any pilots yet, so we all stand up, and right as we start to get off, the pilots walk on. Cool. Okay, let's get out of here. About 15 minutes after that, they're like, well, it's still too hot and we have to get everybody off again. As soon as we get off, we find out that the flight team has timed out. So they were like, all right, we got to try to get a new flight team. 10 minutes after that, they completely canceled the flight. Every single flight for the next day and a half was completely booked up. So they're like, sure, we can get you there, but you're going to get there 5 minutes before your return flight. Yeah, so I just didn't make it to Minneapolis. I'm very upset about that, but that was our first showing of M0 out in public, and Andrew, our sales engineer, showed up and did great. We did the best we could with what we had, so next time.
Well, that's the travel stories of the community and advocates in the community. Yeah. It's a different world, right? And I think obviously everybody's world has been changed over the past year and a half. And I was excited. I've seen you. We live in the same area, but I was excited to see the community, right? Ian Coldwater, they presented the keynote. Nara Coldwater presented as well. Tim Banks was there. There was a lot of folks. Really to just represent not only the DevOps community, but I think more importantly, speaking of communities, is really just the Minneapolis community itself. And so I was excited to be there and just talk with folks and see where they're at, see what they're doing. And so really looking forward to it. We missed you, and I'm really upset that we could not record this live and in person. But I was not about to drive an hour and do this with you today. No offense to you. So, okay. So you said you're a DevOps advocate. Give me a little bit of background about yourself in terms of DevOps, obviously align this to the community. This is what this is about. So tell us a little bit about being a DevOps advocate, where it started and how you got here today.
I have no idea how I got here. If you would have asked me 3 years ago what job I would have been doing, I never would have said, DevRel or advocacy or something like that, because I didn't realize that was an actual job. I'm like the ops of DevOps. I'm a career infrastructure guy. That's kind of my background. But many years ago, we were sitting around at a VMware user group, and the leader, Brad Christian at the time, was just trying to fill some time and just said, career advice, what do I got? Get on Twitter right now. Just go do it right now. And I'm like, why is Twitter relevant for that? No, what? No. I did, and it completely changed the trajectory of my career. Now I, spend my time wasting away on Twitter talking about a little bit of tech, but some other stuff. But really, it's the community engagement thing that really stuck with me, and that's always kind of been my thing ever since then. Even when I was a pre-sales SE at VMware, like community engagement, going to these shows and stuff like that, that's always kind of been my thing. And then, when you jumped over to cloud services there at VMware, and I kind of saw what y'all were doing and, making community engagement, helping the community and stuff like that, creating content, going to shows, when I realized that could actually be a real job, I knew it was for me immediately. So that's kind of how I fell into it. And, we've all kind of moved on and up from where we were and, found the good place for us.
Very cool. And I think a little bit of the backstory there, you didn't go into it, so I'll go into it for you. The team we were working with, we were looking to bring, at a high level, security, visibility, performance, cost management, which are really ops tasks or DevOps related tasks. We wanted to bring those into the pipeline, and Tim, like a champ, took on a challenge. I don't think he had ever touched GitLab in any sort of extensive sense.
Nope.
And Tim built out a pipeline from infrastructure to application. At the time, it was a EC2 based Django app, if I'm not mistaken. And then we morphed it into a Kubernetes based app with 7-8 services. And he built all of that plus all of these, security, health, performance checks, cost checks into the pipeline. So that's what being a community advocate, just failing, trying, breaking. And so, props to Tim for doing that.
God, I failed so much. That was a learning curve. And we all had our, our bits and pieces that went into that. So in all fairness, I didn't build all of that. But God, that was one of the to date. That is one of the largest, most time-consuming, most enraging projects I've ever been a part of.
but that describes DevOps in a lot of ways. We find a problem, we identify the value that the problem could solve and fix, and we hack away. And that's really what Terrascan's about. That's what TerraTag is about. That's really what we're trying to do. On a day-to-day basis nowadays, and that's where we kind of cross paths.
Exactly right.
So the other thing I'd ask you, as you've been in the developer community, working with application teams, working with infrastructure as code, right? Really, these DevOps principles, DevOps practices. By the way, we all have a different definition of DevOps, so I'm not going to get too crazy into that. But around infrastructure as code specifically, what are some of the things that you are passionate about in the area of infrastructure as code, and kind of helps you drive that passion to work with customers, to work with open source teams, work with the community? So tell us a little bit about that.
For me, it's just the next iteration of infrastructure. I am a career infrastructure guy. That still means something these days. Infrastructure as code is not just simply firing the infrastructure guy and telling the developer that they're doing infrastructure now. It's kind of each side needs to learn a little bit about the next one. I got some career advice way back when I was still in infrastructure of, learn some Python, learn some scripting, Power CLI, do some kind of automation. And that helped me kind of sort of understand the developer mindset a little more and start to kind of figure out, there's an old trope of, infrastructure guys hate developers and developers hate infrastructure guys. And that was true back then, but it's simply because, these two groups of people were asking for the same thing in different ways, using different verbiage, different, processes and things like that. Once you start to kind of understand where the other side is coming from and how their methodologies, how their tooling and stuff comes together, you're like, oh, they're asking for this, and this is what I'm trying to give them. They just don't know that because I'm explaining it the wrong way or what have you. So DevOps is a melding of dev and ops. It requires everybody kind of needs to come together. Communication is key. To me, people and process is just as important as what tooling that you're trying to throw at the problem.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things that you're doing to date is around, especially, in the open source side of things, is around TerraTag. So I'm going to pull up the TerraTag repo here. But tell us a little bit about TerraTag and what your involvement, what the team's involvement, and really how it can help the community in the area of infrastructure as code.
Sure, absolutely. So TerraTag is a tiny, tiny piece of the overall M0 platform. For us, we use it for costing. So a lot of the competitors in our space do cost estimation, which is great. But what we do on the other side of that coin is we're doing actual cost. The mechanism of that is that during the deployment process, we're actually going through, TerraTag is running, it's recursively going through and checking all of your infrastructure's code files for taggable resources. That's one thing that's important to note because not all resources in the cloud are taggable. So this is going to find the ones that are. It's going to append tags to it for something like this is your environment ID and this is your project ID so that we can then go back on the back end, scrape that cloud bill with read-only credentials and say, great, this is what it's actually costing you. Cost estimations on the front end are great, but for things like Lambda functions and other kind of usage-based things, it's really hard to estimate that without an actual usage, amount for it. So for us, we'll do the estimation on the front end, but then we'll actually go through and scrape the back end. But with that, we've decided to open source TerraTag itself because we realize that a mechanism of going through, checking all the infrastructure's code and automatically applying tags to those before deployment is something that can be very helpful for everybody. So we've broken that piece out. It's got its own repository, and we've sent that out into the community.
Very nice. And I know I'm a big fan of it. And what's funny is actually I think I had a Twitter conversation about this yesterday. Cost came up in one of the sessions. One of the speakers, one of the presenters, was talking about multi-cloud, which I know you and I are obviously big proponents of that.
Yep.
Obviously, for many reasons, for a long time. But he was talking about the reason we choose multi-cloud is not because of cost. But then he said cost definitely plays a part in it. And so just having that visibility, whether it's a plan versus or all the way to runtime, those are definitely things to focus on.
And it's not just cost. I mean, you can take cost entirely out of the equation. Lots of cloud management platforms and other tools use tags for organizational structures, just being able to filter out resources of a specific project or a specific user. Any form of tagging or labeling, depending on which cloud you're in, can be helpful. You can use it for cost. You can use it for organization. Either way, anything that you could possibly use tags for. Even third-party cloud management platforms, if you have it hooked up where you have a CMDB that's scraping the cloud, use tags as an organizational structure for that.
Yep. Very cool. Well, Tim, I know I'm glad to have you on. I'm sure we will have you on a future episode and let you have a demo opportunity, just like we're going to offer the community. And so, Tim, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate you jumping on. And follow Tim on Twitter at VTimD. Maybe we'll get him to give us a little history on that one as well, because there is a history behind that behind that handle. But Tim, thanks for joining in, man. I hate that you weren't able to join us in Minneapolis, but thanks for your contributions to the community. And we'll see you next time, brother.
Sounds good. Take it easy.
Cheers. No, thanks, Tim. And one of the fun things about what we're going to do with Terrascan Talks, is really open it up to you, the community. Whether it's Tim Davis, who's another developer advocate, one of our, some of the folks behind the project here at Terrascan and at Accurix. But we want you, the community, to jump in. And so over the next few community office hours, we're gonna offer it up. I know there's been some blogs that have been written. There's been some interesting integrations with Terrascan and Azure DevOps as an example. And so we're going to highlight that. We want the community to jump in, and we're going to allow you to kind of interact. So how do you do that, right? Discord is on the website. Follow us on Twitter. And let me share this with you. We do have our Twitter handle up here. We want to interact with you, right? This is a brand new handle. We're ready to jump in, have a little bit of fun, and yes, GIFs and memes are definitely a staple of the account. And so join in, have at it. The other thing I wanted to do today before we close is really, how do you get started? And so Cesar showed us at the very beginning just some of the capabilities within Terrascan and within the project. So just real quick, I'm gonna show you the documentation of how to get started with Terrascan, right? Cesar mentioned a command line tool versus a server mode. we really want you to jump in, utilize it in the way that makes sense for you. In some cases, you may be a GitLab consumer versus a GitHub consumer, or you're using Argo from a Kubernetes perspective, or maybe even use Atlantis, right? So all of our documentation does this for you, and we want you to see it, right? So here's my command line options. I can go a quick Terrascan, and then obviously the CLI help provides a lot of detail. I think just the idea behind Terrascan and how much information we can actually provide you is super important. If you do an inline, if you do a config file, all the way down, and I'll just show you Atlantis PR automation, right? The Atlantis team has done a fantastic job of building some help and guardrails and support around Terraform. And so we want to integrate and work with it. And so thanks to the team, thanks to the community for that. And then ultimately, if you jump into GitLab, put it in your pipelines, right? Using a GitHub action that is created. Or if you want to build it yourself, right? GitLab CI. So there's a lot of ways for you all in the community to integrate. As Tim said, Tim said, don't forget about M0. I think that's probably what we'll do in one of the future shows. We'll have Tim jump on and show how M0 supports that. And actually, Tim, if you want, and I should put it in the show notes, Tim and I have done a couple of things here and there. Tim's done a couple demos, a couple talks on that subject. So I'll make sure and put it in as well. The other thing that I want to mention, we're actually going to open up. You'll see some changes both to the README as well as, the READMEs on both the website project as well as the Terrascan project itself. And so we're going to include things like HackMD, which is show notes. We're going to start, providing links and really, quick and easy ways for you all in the community to interact, to join in. And really, this is about you, and we want to make it as simple for you to do that. And so if you're from, Circle CI, or if you're from, one of the other pipeline tools or pipeline solutions projects in the market, like we're definitely going to, have some folks on, have the community show us how it works. So the last thing I'll cover before we close out today: how often are office hours going to happen? We're going to start out every month. We'll have office hours every month, and the next office hours will be in August, and I'm looking forward to that. A little bit of a heads up: I'm going to have a couple of folks from the project team jump on. Amir, who actually leads the open source project and is the kind of the open source lead for Accurix. He's going to jump in, and he's going to help us a little bit with our roadmap, what the future holds, how you can contribute. You're going to hear a lot of us just kind of reiterating how the community can jump in and help, and where you can play a part in it. And I'm excited about that. And then I'll also have Sangam, as I mentioned earlier. Cannot forget Sangam and his work to get to this point. I'll have Sangam show off a little bit of Kubernetes. And then we'll look at maybe even joining in some other community folks. And so with that, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining in today. This replay will be on YouTube. Look for lots of changes on the website. Share this with your friends. Share it with the community. And let's see what we can do around security in DevOps. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to accomplish together. So with that, I'll sign it off and wish everybody a great day, a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you all either on Twitter and Discord or in a community event as time permits with the pandemic. So with that, I'll say thank you. Follow us on Twitter, run Terrascan, and we really do hope you all have a great opportunity, great time, and we look forward to working with you all. Have a good one, everybody.